Greetings, pilots and passengers. Today is a bit of a different video. It's only a short one, but I had some things on my mind that I wanted to talk about. As you know, as of the 2nd of July, I'm now a university graduate. I have a first class honours degree in journalism, which is amazing. I've worked so hard over the past 3 years to get that achievement. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of hours, research, essays, practical assessments to get that degree. And I'm very thankful that I've had the opportunity to get that degree. But I've realised that having a degree doesn't make you any better than anyone else. Having a degree is just like getting a piece of paper to say you've studied for 3 years, you've worked really hard, well done, pat on the back. It's not the be all and end all. Because I know there's a lot of pressure to go to university, and I think in terms of journalism, it's made out that the only way you will ever become a journalist is if you go to university, get a degree, or get some kind of qualification to say you are fully trained and you know the ins and outs of everything. Of course, you need experience and you need a reputation to be seen as a proper journalist, so to speak. It isn't the be-all and end-all. In my first year of university, we got to hear some wonderful stories from amazing journalists, people who have spent years and years in the industry working their absolute arses off to get where they are today. A lot of them were retired, a lot of them are still working, they're doing different things, but it's the same overall story of you start off really small, you work your way up. Fair enough, it's kind of like that with everything. But there was this overarching theme of, if you want to be a journalist, you want to be working at the BBC. If you want to be a journalist, you want to work at Sky News. If you want to be a journalist, you want to be working at ITV. But what if you didn't want to work at the BBC or ITV or for the mainstream media? What if that was not what you wanted to do? Why would you ever say that? Why would you say that? It was like you get shot down straight away, that if you didn't want to work in BBC or work at a very big organisation, that there is obviously something wrong with you. Or the other side was, well, if you're not wanting to work at the BBC, then you must want to work as a smaller reporter for a smaller news organisation. Or you want to work in PR, you want to work doing social media and helping businesses. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Oh, so why are you doing a degree? You get my drift. It felt like that at points. In my first year, we also had to do a module on journalism in society, which is examining and researching and studying the impact of journalism in society, its history, what impact does it have on the structure of society, government, things like that. We did an essay on how journalism is a watchdog. This essay was, is journalism a good watchdog? And by watchdog I mean, is it holding the government to account? Is it holding society to account? The overall answer was yes but no, because obviously you're kind of taught that you can't say yes to every essay, you can't say no, which looking back is a bit dumb, personally, because I know it's a yes but no answer. But in reality, looking back now, journalism is not a watchdog at all. It's just a puppet, in my opinion, in my eyes. The question should be, is journalism working in favour of the general public, or is it a tool of the elite? And I would go for tool of the elite, personally. The other essay we did as well was about citizen journalism and whether citizen journalism is good for society. Is it dangerous to have citizen journalists documenting the news and having a voice? The overall answer was, as good as it is to have citizen journalists running around getting the news, it's too dangerous for there to be citizen journalists running around doing all that good work. Because they are not trained. They haven't gone to university to get a degree, and they haven't studied the NCTJ course. And this is just for the UK. I mean, I guess you could apply this to many, many countries, including the US. But the overall arching answer was, citizen journalists are too dangerous because they don't know how to write an article and they don't understand media law. I completely understand in terms of libel and slander if you had a citizen journalist who was reporting facts about someone or supposed facts about someone that were very slanderous or libelous. It could get taken to court, you could ruin someone's reputation through that. I get that. At the same time, it doesn't take a lot to research and study the risks of being a citizen journalist and how you can follow the guidelines and the laws to stay safe. I think citizen journalism is more important now than it has ever been before because people are tuning into the TV, reading newspapers and digesting news from mainstream sources a lot less now than in the past. So with coronavirus going on, there's been a lot of research into how much the public trusts the news. And I've got a couple of statistics and sources here that I'm just going to delve into. 10,000 people were surveyed between the 6th and 10th of March, and this was in the UK, US, Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, lots of different countries, 1,000 people from each. Just 43% of the 10,000 people surveyed between the 6th and 10th of March said that they trust journalists to tell the truth about COVID-19, making them the least trusted source behind the most affected countries, 46%, and government officials, 48%. Now that says a lot. 43% is a very low number, but compare that to the past. Another source I'm reading from The Guardian, so that is a very, very trusted news source, as we know. A recent YouGov poll of 1,652 people for Sky News found that 2/3 of the public don't trust TV journalists and almost 3/4 don't trust newspaper journalists. To me, that says a lot, and we should be asking, why are people trusting the media less? When I was studying journalism, one of the things that we get taught through NCTJ as well, as part of the diploma, is to remember and memorise the IPSO and Ofcom code. Now this is just in the UK. The US is very different, but in the UK we have IPSO and Ofcom. Ofcom's for broadcasting, BBC have their own sort of rules on this, as do Channel 4. Thing is, most of them don't follow it, same with IPSO. But there's the editor's code that you're supposed to follow. I'm going to go into a couple of things that really gets me thinking and actually gets me pretty annoyed. Section 1 of the editor's code is surrounding accuracy. It states, the press must take care not to publish inaccurate, misleading or distorted information or images, including headlines not supported by the text. There must be a fair opportunity to reply to significant inaccuracies when reasonably called for. A significant inaccuracy, misleading statement or distortion must be corrected promptly and with due prominence, with an apology published. Think of the times when the press has reported stuff very inaccurately. Did they ever apologise for it? No, they didn't. So what's the point? There's no point. Secondly, let's take a look at the Ofcom code, which is a bit of a joke. Section 5 of the Ofcom Broadcasting Code surrounds due impartiality and due accuracy. It's to ensure that news in whatever form is reported with due accuracy and presented with due impartiality. Due is an important qualification to the concept of impartiality. Impartiality itself means not favouring one side over another. You're not supposed to have a bias when you're on TV, especially if you are working for organisations such as the BBC, which is seen and is supposedly presented as the most trusted news source in the UK. They have a bias. They do. They are not impartial whatsoever. Good Morning Britain, I mean, you got Piers Morgan shouting whatever, and he has a clear bias, and that's seen as alright. The BBC, they're supposed to be impartial, especially politically. You're not supposed to have a leaning at all, and they've been caught out so many times with a political bias, and it's a very left-leaning political bias. I'm not favouring any sides here. I'm just saying there needs to be an impartiality if you are going to say you are an impartial news source, which they are not. Now, why am I ranting about this? I'm ranting about this because we need more citizen journalists to take the news into their hands. All you need is a phone, a microphone, and a story. Is there something you're wanting to report on? Is there something happening in your city that you think needs documenting and needs commentary of? If that's the case, go do it. Nothing is stopping you from doing it. I know there's cases where people have been filming things and they get told, stop filming, you're not supposed to film here. If you're on public property, which is the footpath, you are allowed to film because it's public. If you're on private property, you'd need permission. There's this argument of public interest. Say you go to a protest of the lockdown, that's in the public interest. Is it on private property? If it's on private property, does the public interest outweigh this? You see what I mean? The BBC has the same thing. Is this in the public interest? Do I have the right to go and film this thing and report on it? If the public interest outweighs the risks, then yeah, they will go and report that news. The same can be said for citizen journalists. If you feel that the public health is overall in danger or at risk, then you have the right to report that story. At the same time, you have the right to say your commentary, to tell your story, to speak your truth. And there's too many times now where people are speaking out on social media and they are shot down. They may be investigating a story that would be seen as so ridiculous and so untruthful that they are straight away shot down. They are ridiculed, they are dismissed. And they are told straight away, you are not a journalist, you cannot report the news. That's wrong. Anyone can be a journalist. You need to know the risks of being a journalist, but anyone can be a journalist. There are more people speaking out and telling their side of the story than ever before. And the media does not like that. The media will try to shut it down. Social media is in on this. If you look at Twitter, Facebook censorship, you can't say what you want. If you don't say what is seen as the good public narrative and fits the overall agenda, then you will be scrubbed away and shut down. Your platform will be taken away and you'll be left with nothing. This has happened to so many people, but if you look at how many people are turning away from the mainstream media, they are turning to social media for their news and to alternative sources of news. It's a good step forward. We need people to go out there and find the truth for themselves. You don't have to delve into the world of journalism and think, I am going to set up a news organisation for myself. You can do that. You can. I'm not saying people can't do that. What I'm trying to say is that we need more people willing to speak up and shout out. My issue is that worldwide there is corruption on a scale that it's unfathomable, and it's going on behind closed doors, and it's highly, highly organised. The truth is slowly coming out with Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. She was recently arrested. Pizzagate keeps trending on Twitter every now and again. All these so-called conspiracy theories, more and more truth is coming out about them. Yes, not everything is going to be correct. We are going to be wrong sometimes. But we need to own up to that, unlike the media organisations who take no responsibility whatsoever. We need people to start realising that there is an organised effort to get the mass population silenced. They want us to be stuck indoors, twiddling our thumbs, going to work every day, being wage slaves, and not having the ability to think for ourselves. But that's where the journalists come in. And by journalists, I mean the citizen journalists. People keep reporting. People need to keep speaking out and telling their truth, telling their story, asking questions. That is being a journalist, to ask questions. If you ask a question, I think you're a journalist. If you're asking questions the journalists should be asking, then you're a journalist. Keep asking the questions because then we will get the answers. We won't get them straight away, but we have to trust that the overall plan will work in our favour. We need to come together. We need to keep putting pressure on these people, these groups, elites, government, individuals, authorities. We need to put pressure on them to keep providing answers. We need to start asking why our freedoms are taken away. And we need to take our phones, go outside and report on it. There are many, many more alternative news sources cropping up online. I'd like to think Datafly is one of those, but it's more than that. I want to develop this into an open but it's more than that. I want to develop this into an open platform where people can freely speak their mind, come on and discuss what they want. I want to be able to support victims, and that includes victims of child abuse, satanic ritual abuse, and victims of free speech, having their freedom of speech taken away from them. If that's happened to them, then there needs to be a platform where they feel safe to speak out. We are all journalists deep down, but we just need to be able to speak up and realise that you don't need to have a degree to tell your truth, to tell your story, to get the facts. Yes, if you're going to do it in a real proper way and want to have an impact on the world, you need to have a grasp of the risks and understand you cannot go around willy-nilly shouting, so-and-so's this, so-and-so's that. You need to have a grounding and understanding. If we come together and we keep fighting, we keep asking questions, we turn away from mainstream media and support each other to find out the real news, then the world can become a much better place. The news is there to divide us. When you turn on the TV, you don't see positive stories. You don't see actual corruption being exposed and justice being served. You see fear, fear, fear. Be scared. The world is a terrible place. This group is against this group. That's all we see. We don't see people coming together to fight for justice. And that's what we should be doing, fighting for justice at the end of the day. Journalism is changing. The future of journalism is not in a black box. It is in you. And for those who want to actually stand up and fight, if you've got a phone, you are a journalist. Don't listen to the people saying that you can't do things. Don't conform to the standard. But keep going. Please keep going. Keep fighting for justice. Because there's people in this world who need it more than ever. They need us to be united. They need light. There is a plan for light. It's a difficult, long plan. We will win the war. We won't win every battle, but we'll win the war in the end. And I look forward to the future where freedom of speech is celebrated. Being able to tell your truth is acceptable. And finding out the story yourself is the norm. But until then, if you want to watch the mainstream news, you do that. But really think with a critical mind about every word that them reporters are telling you, and then go and research that same story for yourself. I think you'll be surprised as to what they miss and leave out. On that note, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something and I hope it got you thinking. If you'd like to support the channel, it would mean the world to me if you subscribed. And if you have some thoughts on what I've discussed today, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to get into discussions with you guys. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, where I'm constantly tweeting, discussing what's going on in the world. Thank you. Fly high, fear less, keep fighting. United we stand and divided we fall.